This all happened when I was about 8 or 9 years old. My parents, little brother, and I lived in a small house on a pretty busy road. Our landlord and his wife lived next door, and the neighbors on the other side of us were pretty good family friends. We all kind of noticed that our landlord, Ray, had a thing for my mom, although it was something we never really paid too much attention to. This was the same year that my parents got divorced. All 3 bedrooms in our house were on the main floor, with an extra room in the basement. When my dad moved out, my mom moved her room to the basement and created a toy room for my brother and myself in the room that was once theirs. On the weekends, my brother and I would sleep in the toy room, as there was a TV in there where we would play our video games and watch movies. My dad had maybe been gone a month at this point, and my brother and I were having a normal Friday night in our toy room. We were watching a movie when, all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed what looked like a bright light grazing our window. I was laying closest to the window, so all I had to do was sit up and I'd be able to see into our backyard. It wasn't a lit-up backyard, and it backed up to the yard of the people who lived behind us. Being a curious child, I decided to look out the window to see if maybe I could figure out where the light came from. My brother asked me what I was doing before sitting up to join me. When no sooner did he get to the window, the light shone right in our eyes. We now knew that it was a flashlight. We were frozen in fear, and while we sat there paralyzed for what felt like minutes on end, it was likely no more than 10 seconds before we backed up and tried to pretend that what had just happened didn't just happen. The next day, we told our mom what we remembered, and she called our other neighbor, Jerry, and he came over to see if maybe he could investigate. He came right over and told my mom that he had been outside smoking a cigarette at that time and noticed someone lurking around in our yard. He discreetly made his way over to the fence, and when he saw the flashlight shining into our window, it was then that he could see that it was Ray. Jerry chased Ray off and waited to make sure that he wasn't coming back. This is something that we were all shaken by, but decided not to address it until something further happened. Some time went by and nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but unfortunately, it didn't stop there. One day, while my mom was in the shower, I was in my toy room, playing with my brother. I had to use the bathroom, so I decided to use the one in the basement. When, as soon as I walked out of my room, I saw Ray standing outside of the main bathroom door, as if he was just waiting for my mom. We locked eyes in the hallway. I froze and stared at him. He just smiled this creepy smile at me before saying, "I just came to ask your mom a question, but I'll just wait until later," before walking back down the hallway and leaving our house. Now, this kind of thing continued for about a month. We would come home from school, and Ray would be sitting on our porch. He'd walk into our house at random times during the day, often without even knocking. He'd use his key, since our door was pretty much always locked. Not inviting someone to come in. One night, I even caught him peering through our big bay window into our living room. Apparently, we weren't the only ones that noticed. My mom said that when she would go to the store or go out to eat or head to the mall, that Ray would mysteriously be there. She had had enough at that point and decided that now was the time to move. She broke the lease and discreetly moved to a quiet, family-oriented neighborhood, one with lots of other children. We thought we were safe there. When, a couple of months after moving and living in peace, we were all outside in the front yard one day, talking and playing with neighbors, when a familiar gray van slowly drove past our house. We all recognized it. It was Ray's. He must have followed us at some point to figure out our new location. He would drive by every day, sometimes even multiple times. My mom finally called the police. I'm not sure what they did about it, but all of this stopped shortly after that, and we never saw Ray again. As far as the flashlight incident goes, I firmly believe that he knew that the toy room was once my parents' room, although he was unaware that my mom had relocated to the basement. He was undoubtedly looking for her, and with the bathroom incident, who knows what would have happened if I hadn't come out of my room when I did, or if my brother and I hadn't been in the house at all. When I was in my early 20s and living in Chicago, I wasn't making much money. When I found this apartment, it felt like it was too good to be true. The top floor of a duplex with 6 rooms for $775 a month. The agent who showed me the apartment stressed to me that the landlords were a very religious couple. I didn't have a problem with that, even if the agent made it sound a little ominous. The landlords were an elderly couple that lived downstairs. They seemed okay at first. When I saw them in the yard, they would smile at me. I did my best to take good care of the house. Then, when they saw I was having my boyfriend over, things started to get really weird. One day, I was in my office writing. That's when I hear a knock at the door. I open it, and it's the old lady from downstairs. Before I can even say hello, she says, "Have you ever gotten an abortion?" I shut the door in her face immediately. No thanks. Although I'd only learn later that this was a colossal mistake. The house was laid out kind of weird. There was a door at the bottom of a flight of stairs that I thought led to a communal laundry room. But after accidentally opening it, I discovered it led directly into my landlord's living room. I unfortunately learned this the hard way. I was in my kitchen cooking. My boyfriend was at work, and I was by myself when I heard what sounded like the click of a door. "Okay," I say out loud. "What the f*** was that?" I didn't really make the connection that it could have been the door that led into their living room. I walk into the hallway and look around. I don't see anyone at the end of the hallway. I poke my head into all of the rooms. Nobody there. Then I look down the staircase leading to their house, and the neighbor lady is standing right there, just staring me down. I instinctively screamed. She flinched at the sound, stepping back into her apartment and swinging the door shut. After that, every time I left the house, and keep in mind, I spent every possible moment out of the house after that incident, I would come back and something would have been moved in my apartment. A window would be shut. Once, the shower was dripping, and my towel was damp. I couldn't lock the door because, since it was technically a door to their house, they were the only ones with the key. The knocking at my door got so frequent, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, that me and my boyfriend propped up an old mattress so that we wouldn't have to hear it while we slept. The second to last straw was when I opened the door for work, and the stairs were gone. I physically couldn't leave my house because there were no stairs. They had been dismantled and were sitting on the porch. I called the landlords repeatedly, but they didn't answer once. Finally, their son came out of the house and explained that they were doing some remodeling of the porch. He told me I had to cut through their apartment downstairs if I wanted to leave. I descended the stairs and opened the door, only to find the old couple both sitting there at their filthy kitchen table, just staring blankly at me. The house phone was in its cradle. They must have heard it ringing, but they just kept staring at me with this absent look on their face. I crossed their kitchen and left out their back door, returning their stare as I did. A few days later, I came home from my job and noticed that the bathroom floor was almost completely flooded, as if someone left a faucet on, or even the shower on. The old woman, seeing that I had come home, immediately came upstairs and knocked, screaming at me that I had flooded the bathroom and that her son had to come fix it. I was so run down at this point that I just told her it was fine. Her son comes by a few hours later, absolutely shit-faced. I open the door and tell him that I need an hour or so before he comes in. And that's when he picks something up and swings it directly at me. It was a massive wrench. I somehow duck out of the way and he stumbles over, likely because he's drunk. I book it down the newly repaired stairs as quickly as possible and call the police from the safety of down the block. They come by and take down a complaint, but claim that since there was no physical contact, that they couldn't do anything. I learn later that the old couple has a daughter on the force. In the middle of the night, me, my boyfriend, and several of his friends packed up all of our stuff into a Chevy Astro. We lived in hotels in the van for a month until we found another house. I'm guessing that that's what it took for that old couple to take the hint, seeing as after we left, they never attempted to reach out to us ever again. I knew it from the moment that he opened the door. I saw it in his eyes plain as day. He was considerate and polite, but I saw a sort of mechanical touch to it. One part as if he was used to this. One part as if he was really trying hard to hide his true self and to be sociable. His mouth told me one thing, but I was interested in what his eyes told me. And they told me that he was lying. Then I saw it in the way his house smelled. Foul and musty, like a window hadn't been opened in a long time. I could sense more than a hint of mold. There was a carefully arranged stack of papers right by the entryway, but everything else was in shambles. I just told myself that nobody had done a proper cleaning in a very long time. And I was right. There were spiders in some corners of the residence, but others were completely tidy, something that I found strange. The room that I rented in the house was no bigger than a cupboard, but I had to take it. I was new to the country, staying at a local inn and trying to find a place to rent. This was the only place available on such short notice, so I took my chances. I like to think that I'm a fairly good judge of character, so I knew within the first few minutes that this guy had issues. But I also knew that he was intelligent. I could see it. His eyes were sparking, and in most people who have a spark in their eyes, it's either one of intelligence or madness. The fact that he was shifting between the two absolutely sent shivers down my spine. The first day, he told me that he had to attend a conference in another country, so he'd be gone for about 2 weeks. Apparently, there was another tenant, a lady in her 50s, and she wasn't around very much. Great, I thought. I can have the house pretty much to myself, get the chance to have my girlfriend over without anybody bothering us, and also be able to settle in and explore the surroundings. Just what I liked. Peace and quiet. That morning brought on the first major red flag. He asked me to read the water, electricity, and gas meters every night, and to write the numbers on a piece of paper, because apparently he liked to keep an eye on things. I said fine. The guy is into this. I don't care. Perhaps it was my mistake that I dismissed it so easily. Well into these first 2 weeks, the other lady finally came around. Cindy. She was rather lovely. She just radiated an optimistic and positive aura, and I liked chatting with her and exchanging a few pleasantries whenever we passed. She raised the second red flag for me when she told me that our landlord told her that she couldn't ever take a bath, only showers. The 2 weeks that he was gone came and went. It was the beginning of October, but the weather was already quite chilly. As soon as he returned, he began asking me whether I had turned the heating on. I told him that I did. because I was cold. No. We don't do that. We can't turn the heating on now. What will we do when it's truly cold? I get that, but my room is the coldest in the house, and I'm actually freezing. Well, you can't expect to live in a sauna. I don't want to live in a sauna. I just want to feel warm. I wake up with a chill running through my bones every morning. Well, there are other ways of getting warm, and you can't expect to be warm when you're sleeping naked. Okay, hold up. How did he know how I slept? At this point, it was clear to me that I underestimated the craziness of this man, so there was no point in continuing. Instead, I asked him for a thermometer to see how cold it really was in my room. Turns out, it was between 15 and 16 degrees Celsius. For my friends in the States, that's roughly 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And that was at the beginning, or maybe the middle of October. After I showed him the thermometer, he finally caved in and gave me a shitty heater. But I was glad because I was finally able to keep warm again, although I was told to only turn it on between 6 p.m. and midnight. By this point, I realized this little was nothing more than a money-grabbing tick who'd eat his own feces if it brought him money. But something told me that there was more. I knew that there was more by the way that he told me how to do things differently, just the way that he wanted them to be done. If I washed a dish one way, it wasn't good. I had to follow his precise instructions. I couldn't dry a pair of jeans and a t-shirt I need for work on the heater in the living room because it created humidity. I couldn't just throw things away that I wanted. I had to do them in a very particular manner. Some of the stuff that he demanded, I just chalked up to OCD. Some to the fact that he was just a major fucking weirdo. I tried doing what he said. I tried reasoning with him, begging, pleading, even arguing, but nothing worked. These kind of situations just persisted. The more that he tried to put effort and passion into making his arguments for everything he did, and explaining everything like he was delivering the greatest speech in the history of mankind, the less I cared about everything he said. That's what got to him. And that's when things took a turn for the worse. I started noticing things being moved in my room. Small stuff, not easily noticeable, but I noticed them. He then became increasingly distant, to the point that we barely spoke. You could cut the tension with a knife when we were in a room together. Cindy eventually moved out. She said that she was tired of this guy's shit, and she found a better looking and cheaper place. I was happy for her, and she gave me a halogen heater to use, just like that. Really sweet of her, and that heater helped me a lot in the colder months. After Cindy came Patricia, a really nice girl from Canada. She didn't know of his behavior yet. It didn't take long for her to learn, though. Like I said, I only got to use the heater between 6 and midnight only. I did this, sometimes cheating a bit, just to warm myself up in the morning. But he would watch my door like a hawk and wait for midnight to strike before knocking and telling me to turn the heater off. Other times, he would just barge in like it was nothing, apparently content to use a lame excuse like asking if I wanted some lights for my bike because he planned on ordering some. That's when I noticed another major red flag: the webcam in the dining room. I like studying my environments, so I noticed a thing that wasn't supposed to be there, up on the wall. It looked as if it had been painted in order to blend in with the rest of the wall, but I knew it had no business being there, and it stood out like a sore thumb. It's at that point that I decided that I needed to find another place soon. So we continued our dance of not really saying much to the other. I tried diffusing the tension by being happy, optimistic, and just good-natured towards him. I tried talking about the stuff that he liked, tried making conversation, but nothing seemed to work. The final major red flag dropped tonight. I got home from work, pretty beat. I had dinner, cracked open a beer, and then moved to my bed with my laptop to chat with my girlfriend and read it around. That's when I heard sounds coming from downstairs. The guy had come home, apparently completely smashed, and started throwing things, breaking things, slamming doors, cursing, all because the heater was on. He started saying things along the lines of, showing no fucking respect, and, are you hot now? Even though everything I did was trying to go by his absurd and obsessive rules. That's when the shouting and swearing continued, and I genuinely began to be afraid of what this guy could do. I know by now he's capable of just about anything. He tried provoking me by knocking on my door and yelling, "Are you heating yourself up now?" I didn't respond though, even though I'm a good foot taller and probably twice his weight. I'm in a new country where my people are not truly viewed very kindly. So in this situation, I think I would rather be the victim than the aggressor. But I eventually did call the police. They came by and told me that they wouldn't be able to do much, but strongly advised me to move out and find someplace else to live. That seemed to quiet him down, and I think he's sleeping now, but I'm still a bit on edge because I don't know what he's capable of. Now I'm faced with a dilemma. I want to move out tomorrow if possible, but I'm afraid he won't give me my deposit back if I do. I also have to work from 2 p.m. on, and I'm afraid to leave my stuff here because he might do something to it. Break it, set it on fire. Dealer's choice. I'm expecting just about everything from this guy. I don't know exactly how to proceed, and in all honesty, I just want to be as far away from this guy as possible. Update. I spoke to him this morning. He was surprised that I called the police, and he denied being drunk. He also denied saying anything to me and accused me of making stuff up, saying, "You don't even know if you're crazy or not." But all the while, he was trembling and being erratic. He did, however, say that I'd get my deposit back when I moved out. I don't know whether or not to trust this, but I'm moving out tomorrow anyway. I haven't figured out where I'm going just yet, but I know deep down, any place is better than this.